Welcome in, everybody, to This is the Shoot. Today we're going to be talking about Mr. McMahon, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, and his statement that he made on Thursday, July 29th of 2021 in his investors conference call. Happened earlier this week. It was kind of big news because Vince McMahon came out and said that AEW is not a competition. He doesn't consider AEW the competition that WCW was. Now, I'm going to give my thoughts on this, but I also have a quote from Mr. Eric Bischoff back in June saying pretty much the same thing, but he explains it a little bit more. He explains it better than what Vince McMahon went into, because Vince McMahon being Vince McMahon, he's going to give a Vince McMahon answer on everything that he does. Now, here's the quote, and I quote. But before I quote, let me say this. An investor caller asked for Vince's thoughts on AEW in all of the recent signings, and was it a rising tide like we have seen back when WCW was in a heyday, when they were starting to compete and take viewership away from WWE and actually almost ran WWE out of business? That is not an exaggeration. That is facts, ladies and gentlemen. Go back. Anybody who's ever talked about the Monday Night Wars, WWE, if it wasn't for Stone Cold and the Attitude Era coming alive, and ECW and WWE adapting to the way things were going, getting away from the over-exaggerated characters, the superhero gimmicks, the unbeatable forces, etc., etc., WCW might be who we was talking about today instead of WWE. But here's what Vince said, and I quote, "Well, it's certainly not a situation with rising tides. That was when Ted Turner was coming at us with all of Time Warner's assets. That was a different situation. AEW is where they are. Period. I don't know what their plans are. I only know what our plans are. I don't consider them competition in the way I would consider WCW back in the day. Not anywhere near close to that. Period. I'm not sure what the investments are as far as the talent is concerned, but perhaps we can give them some more." This was a very Vince McMahon-like answer. Vince McMahon, anyone who has been following WWE or knows anything about Vince McMahon, he is a very man's man. He's not going to admit his weakness. Now, I want to clear something up, because he says AEW is where they are. I don't know what their plans are. I only know what our plans are. I don't consider them competition in the way I would consider WCW. What I want to make clear on that is, he's not saying that AEW is not competition or could be future competition. He's pretty much saying right now, from what I take away from that, you can read into it however you would like. What I take away from that is, they're not on WCW's level, at least not yet. And I have to agree with him to an extent that, look, AEW is competition, but AEW has came out many times saying, hey, we want to be an alternative to what you get on a weekly basis in the world of professional wrestling now. So the thing is, folks, it's not like Vince McMahon is saying that they're not competition. So those of you who are diehard AEW fans, don't take that as an insult, but AEW should take it kind of serious. Like, okay, you don't think we're competition? Well, let's begin. And they have been getting better in the storytelling. They have been getting better as a show. Heck, they just did a 1.1 million on Wednesday night. They're staying in that 1 million range, that 1 million fan viewership range of live viewership, I should say. Now, Nick Khan, which is the WWE president, who's been catching a lot of crap on social media, he took a little bit more of a political answer on it. He said all forms of entertainment are competition to the WWE. Now, when you compare, a lot of people compare AEW to WCW. It's a little early to tell right now, but they compare it from a negative aspect, saying, oh, well, they're signing a bunch of WWE guys. They're signing a bunch of former wrestlers. Well, when WWE has been around for 40-something years, 30-something years, something like that, which Eric Bischoff even mentions, how can you expect a new promotion not to, especially a young promotion with a lot of young talent, You have to take in guys that's been in the business for a long time, that knows the machine, which is the WWE, to help fight it and to help defend yourself against what they're going to do or the things at which they do. Eric Bischoff, like I said, I think put it best back, and then this article was made June 11th, 2021. I do know he made this statement back in June because I do listen to his podcast, 83 Weeks, which, by the way, I suggest anyone who is big into wrestling, go check out that podcast, because Eric Bischoff, though he does kind of go off on the wall in some of his answers, let's be honest, he is a very smart individual, especially when it comes to the world of marketing and TV strategy, especially now in his older age. Maybe back in the day when he was younger, and he's admitted many times he made a lot of mistakes, especially in WCW, that he, in hindsight 2020, he wished he would have done back. But here's what Eric Bischoff said, and this is a long quote. It's a two-parter. So I'm going to read the first part, and then I'm going to explain it and tell you what my thoughts are on this. Eric Bischoff, quote, June 11, 2021. My opinion is AEW are not competition. They're not even close. They are not even in the same universe in many, many respects. You can't really compare WWE to AEW. AEW has been around effectively 2 years. WWE has been around for 30 to 40 years, or whatever it has been. My point is, you can't really compare them and what AEW is doing now. In my opinion, as is MLW, which is another wrestling organization, it's smaller, it's on Vice TV, or will be coming to Vice TV, I should say. Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, is the taking advantage of and drafting from the massive audience that WWE has created. There's enough interest in wrestling in general, in a large part because of the success that WWE over the decades, He's true on that. WWE has been the only source of true wrestling from a mainstream media aspect. I know we've had TNA, and Impact's been around for a while, TNA Impact, but now it just goes by Impact. It's been around for a long time. There's been other wrestling organizations. We just seen Nick Gage from GCW, who's picked up a lot of steam and a lot of popularity because of Dark Side of the Ring. And I'm not quoting right now. This is just me talking in this case anybody was confused. So he has a point. They kind of, AEW hasn't been around long enough. He's only been around for 2 years. So all these wrestling organizations are borrowing from the audience that's been watching WWE for years, and the WWE audience. Now, he's not saying they're not getting their own fans. They're not saying they don't have their own fan base. And he's not saying that, hey, they don't have their own diehard fans that, they're strictly AEW, strictly MLW, strictly Impact, strictly Ring of Honor. Excuse me. So let me continue. Back to quote, and I quote, my point is you can't really compare them and what is AEW doing now. In my opinion, as of MLW, Impact, Ring of Honor, is they're taking advantage of and drafting from the massive audience that WWE has created. There's enough interest in wrestling in general, in large part, because of the success of WWE over the decades, that companies like AEW or Impact or Ring of Honor or MLW can come in. I think more and more MLW is going to be a part of the conversation more than it has been in a while. But all these companies are taking advantage of an audience, but they're not taking anything away from WWE. They're just not. Now, MLW, I have not watched MLW. I don't know what goes on over there. I've heard some things. Devoy was on Tommy Dreamer's show, House of Hardcore podcast, where he talked about MLW and what they do differently. So for any MLW fans that's watching this video, by all means, please tell me what, if you watch MLW, what is MLW compared to the other companies? What do they do different? Is it a good show to watch? Because I'm kind of interested and I want to check it out for myself. And he's also saying, hey, they're not taking the audience. They're not taking away. And he's going to go in and explain this a little bit more. And I quote, when AEW or any other company starts taking market share like I did, like WCW did, now you've got my attention. Until then, everybody's just showing up to the party and taking some free chips. It's not costing WWE anything. Maybe you can suggest that one of the reasons Braun Strowman, for example, was able to negotiate such a big contract was because Vince was afraid he was going to go to AEW. Now remember, this is back in June when Eric Bischoff came out with this quote. So as far as I know, Braun Strowman was still a part of the company by then, or he was just right before his release when this quote was made. Sure, we've covered that, but I think now WWE is at the point where everybody's going where everybody's going. It's cool for AEW. It's good for the business. Everybody loves variety. It doesn't hurt anybody, and they're not taking away from WWE. I'm interested to see what happens when people actually start taking market share. That they're currently not taking. That was my goal back then. That end of quote. Now, what this is pretty much telling me is, okay, AEW, we're never really going to know. Yes, you can use the Wednesday Night Wars, if that's what you want to call it, with NXT versus AEW when they was both on Wednesday nights and you had to pick which one you was going to watch, which one you was going to DVR, or maybe you just picked one you was going to watch and then watch the other one. I watch both. Like I've said many times, I love WWE. I like AEW. For me, WWE, I prefer WWE's product. Now, don't take that out of context saying, oh, well, you're a WWE loyalist. No, a WWE loyalist is someone who strictly watches WWE product and cares nothing about the other businesses that's going on. I am a wrestling fan. I'm a pro wrestling fan. I've watched NWA. I've seen a little bit of Impact. Like I said, I haven't watched MOW with having a life, and everybody can relate to this. You know, when you have a life, things come up. You can't sit down and watch every single thing and still keep things moving inside your life. You know, you got to pick and choose when and how much time you spend watching this stuff. Now, what he's saying is, from a marketing standpoint, are fans leaving WWE in boatloads to go view AEW? The only way we're ever going to see truly if AEW is making an impact, I know Rampage is coming out here on August 13th. I don't believe they're airing at the same time as SmackDown. It's going to be a Friday night show. You truly want to see what AEW's impact is on the wrestling business and an impact that they have versus WWE, then AEW need to be on the same night, same time as either a Monday Night Raw or a Friday Night SmackDown. WWE does not push NXT the way they should to get it into the mainstream media. They're starting to do that now. But at the time when NXT came out, it wasn't getting pushed as hard. For whatever reason that may be. I prefer NXT. It's a wrestling show. There's some entertainment thrown in there, but it's a wrestling show. You're getting true colored wrestling. NXT's looked at as a developmental system, which it shouldn't be, but it is. And to an extent, I guess it's correct too, because they are kind of like, that's where they develop the talent. And being on USA, that's kind of where they get used to being on TV, what they see, what works, what don't work, compared to when they was just on the WWE network. Now, I'm inclined to believe that AEW is competition for WWE. Because if AEW did go to a Friday night and started at the same time as SmackDown, or a Monday Night Raw and started at the same time as Raw, I believe there are going to be some viewers that will switch over to AEW and not watch WWE. But would it be enough to push WWE to begin to change what they're doing? Right now, WWE, they've changed some of the things they're doing, but they haven't changed enough to the point of making a drastic change to counteract what AEW is doing. These are just my thoughts. I gave you the quotes, and I'm leaving it up to you guys to make your own opinions, and I encourage you to leave it in the comments below. Vince McMahon is not saying that AEW is not competition. Vince McMahon is saying that they're not on the same level as WCW was back in the day. To an extent, I'm inclined to believe that statement as well. Like I said, there's only one true way that we're ever going to know that. Is with AEW, whether it be Rampage or AEW Dynamite, would begin to do it on the same nights at the same time as a WWE main, what they call the main roster, show start, whether it be Monday Night Raw. And if I was AEW, I would go after Monday Night Raw, because Monday Night Raw across the board for most fans, for most WWE fans even, is the weaker of the 3 shows that WWE puts on. They already proved they can hang with NXT. I want to see if they can hang with I want to see if AEW can hang with either SmackDown or Monday Night Raw, and I believe they can hang with them both. But I don't know if it's substantial enough to say, hey, this is the WCW in the making. A lot of comparisons have been made about WCW and AEW, and I'll make a separate video talking about that based on the acquisitions of former WWE talent. That all being said, I'm interested to see what you guys think down below. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. And you know what? I'm open for any type of conversation, whether you wholeheartedly agree, don't agree, you want to, if you want to call Eric Bischoff an idiot, that's fine. You want to call Vince McMahon an idiot, that's fine. But it's good, but keep it reasonable and have an open mind to what's being said here. No one's saying that AEW is not competition. I certainly ain't saying that. But, is WWE, Vince McMahon, think overlooking AEW, and I think he is to an extent, and he might want to be careful. All that said, guys, thanks for tuning in the video, and I'll catch you guys later.